If you just recognize that sound, you undoubtedly know where it's from. It's the Valve theme, of course, but where exactly does it come from? As I'm sure a lot of you know, the iconic Valve intro song originates from Half-Life 1 and was composed by the one and only Kelly Bailey, who, fun fact, was one of the 4 Valve employees used as a composite model for Gordon Freeman's face in a bunch of different promotional material. Which also reminds me, Half-Life. I'm pretty certain this game needs no introduction, considering the impact it has on gaming as a whole, but what if it didn't? Like, what if Half-Life, one of the most influential games of all time, never gained the popularity it deserves? In fact, what if it didn't deserve status at all? Like, what if the game that probably defined my childhood playing games that came out years before I did, what if it wasn't even worth being recognized? Now, you could easily take that the wrong way, so I'd like to say that I really enjoy the Half-Life series as much as everyone else does. But still, think about the influence the first game from 1998 has on games that will come after. Like, even the first couple chapters, the level of environmental world building and the way NPCs just go about their day was considered revolutionary by the standards set by games prior. Like, sure, the original Doom games were and still are campy, fun romps of shooting demons and finding annoyingly hidden keycards that blend in level after level, but Half-Life 1 is a bit different, however. It involved things more like, hey, you see these scientist guys in the first chapter? Tell your deepest, darkest secrets to the development console and you can obliterate them if you want them to. But it also has things like, hey, you want to fight a super secret alien world where the guys you've been slaughtering come from a giant baby after screaming about how frustrating the final act of the game is? To put it short, Half-Life is a pretty cool game, and it's still fun to play over 20 years later, but we're not here to talk about Half-Life 1 was. We're here to talk about what it isn't. A failure. It's no secret Valve practically lived off of Half-Life before Steam launched in 2003, considering it was their first game as a company. It was probably their only source of income. No pun intended, I promise. It's fair to just assume that if Half-Life 1 didn't make any profit, the company would just go defunct, as most game studios in similar situations have. Yeah, take that Silent Hill downpour than PS3 and Xbox 360, but I'd argue it goes a lot deeper than that, going all the way to the structure and surrounding elements of modern games alike. So let's start this overthought and completely trivial journey with a timeline of events. So, Half-Life released in 1998. Good for it. Who cares? Half-Life was a commercial failure and nobody played it. Valve released a statement saying that Half-Life barely made a fraction of investment returns and worries for its future. Wanting to save its ship before it actually starts to sink, Valve gets the idea to make an expansion opposing force. Unfortunately, the original game did so poorly that they couldn't actually outsource the project to another studio, so 5 guys from the development team decided to work on it in their spare time with barely any pay. When the expansion releases, Valve realizes they actually want to sell it, so they make it a standalone game instead of an add-on. But they don't actually have enough money to publish it, so they get an offer from Bethesda Softworks instead because of how well the engineers at Valve used and modified the Quake engine to make something original. So Valve takes the deal and Half-Life gets rebranded under Bethesda's umbrella. When they're about to publish the game, the big suits at Bethesda request the team to rework the whole project to function as a prequel to Doom, because of course they would. They changed it from Black Mesa to some earlier form of the UAC. The small team has barely any time or resources to make this change, but within a few months of the original game's release, Doom Opposing Force releases on PC in 1999 with a PS1 and N64 port that no one actually played because bad ports of games aren't worth playing, fun fact. Although it definitely pays off initially, the Valve team shows their disappointment towards Bethesda for the change in IP, and Bethesda responds by refusing pitches for sequels, additional content, and other ideas from Valve. Because of this, Valve goes back to being in financial trouble when they try to hire the team behind the original Team Fortress mod for Quake into making it a standalone release and officially declare bankruptcy by 2000. Though about to close its doors, Valve gets a miracle, this time from EA. They get handed the license for 007 Nightfire to make a PC game based on the Gold Source engine to go alongside with the console releases in 2002. The game does pretty well, commercially and critically, and Valve is able to get enough funding for a sequel to Half-Life 2, but not what you're thinking. When the team at Valve was working on the Gold Source engine, the fork known as Source still existed, but the developers needed to focus their money on making a game instead of another engine, and it ended up being a slightly more impressive version of Gold Source. This is the engine that Half-Life 2, that's 2 in Roman numerals by the way, was built on. Development of Half-Life 2 went well for the most part until the 2004 beta leak, where the whole game was leaked online, but instead of changing a lot for the game to distance itself from the leak, Valve embraced it and focused the game on what the fans wanted instead, completely rewriting the story to take place a year after the events of Half-Life, where Gordon is stationed at Black Mesa in an alternate universe, because why not? Though the game tried appealing to fans, Half-Life 2 released in 2006 to a lukewarm reception and very poor sales. Critics say that the game's narrative seems like an overcomplicated fanfiction that rarely improves from the ideas of the first game. This causes the end of Valve, as the company, known for barely hovering over the bankruptcy line, falls even further. The team disbanded in 2007 after trying to get another project about using interdimensional portals off the ground, leaving a sad but pretty common legacy for game studios in the 2000s. But of course, people start liking the game a decade later, so Bethesda, who bought the IP after Valve's closure, makes a live service spin-off of the games made by people who've never played them, as Bethesda probably would. Introducing Black Mesa Plummeting Simulator 5000 version 2013. So there you have it. That's my best guess of what would happen if Half-Life wasn't popular enough. Keep in mind this is mostly basis and just what I think would happen, but I think this timeline makes enough sense. I didn't include anything about other Valve games because I honestly feel like if the timeline was real, they wouldn't have been able to make much other games or hire enough people to make those games, like Counter-Strike, Team Fortress, even Portal. They basically were the Half-Life company from the start to their end. But really, what did all this mean? To your surprise, the whole meaning of Half-Life's existence was to make From Dusk Till Dawn, the video game 2001, slightly worse. Hi, it's me again. I like making essays about random things, and this was the first thing that popped into my mind. I still haven't really found much ideas of stuff to make, but I do like this format, so if you also like that, I hope you have your schedule open. Until then, bye.